I've said repeatedly over a very long time that the Senate must be reformed, and if it cannot be reformed, it should be abolished. The fact of the matter is, as you know, Canadians remain divided over whether they want to reform or abolish the Senate. On reform versus abolition, the Supreme Court ruled, as you pointed out, that both reform and abolition would require unanimous approval of the provinces. So that's the situation we're in. What I take from this is the following. Canadians are not divided on their opposition to the status quo, that is, to an unelected, unaccountable Senate. The government is not going to take any actions going forward that would do anything to further entrench that unelected, unaccountable Senate. For the past 2.5 years, since the Supreme Court decision and prior, I have not made any appointments to the Senate. There are now 22 vacancies in the Senate. And let me be clear, it will be our policy to formalize that. We will have a moratorium on further Senate appointments. This has two advantages. The first and obvious advantage is that it saves costs. As we've been doing this, costs have been falling in the Senate. In fact, Senate expenses are now down some $6 million from what they were. It's still a long way to go, but they have come down, and they're going to come down more. But the second advantage of this approach is I think it will force the provinces over time, who, as you know, have been resistant to any reforms in most cases, to either come up with a plan of comprehensive reform or to conclude that the only way to deal with the status quo is abolition. So that is the path we're going to take, a moratorium on future appointment of senators.
There is no chance, I believe with all my heart, there is no chance for us to achieve a Triple-E Senate. And I worry actually that legitimizing a Senate with partial reform, perhaps without making sure that it's equal, provides the system a redundancy. The Federation, as I've mentioned, is already represented in the House of Commons by representation by population, and frankly, the way the seats are distributed, there's a representation by population element in the Senate as well, and that doesn't make sense. I think what the Prime Minister has just said is it's up to the provinces, and I hope provinces and territories would respond. You know, if we simply can't come to an agreement on how this thing can be meaningfully reformed, then surely we must be able to decide that in 2015, this country, the modern democracy that it is, ought not to provide decision-making authority to an appointed body, however it's constituted. That doesn't make any sense. And so it'll be up to premiers, I think, to respond to this now, and I appreciate and support the fact that no further senators will be appointed.